Welcome in. All right, sorry. me. There it was. Did you guys hear?
Yeah,
right.
I did.
Welcome in, everybody. To another, oh, my God.
You need me to do this?
Third time's a charm. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin. I'm joined by my co-host, James Haskell. And we have two special guests for this episode from Hands Pick Scouts, Danny and Craig Henzelka. They're going to come in and help us break down one area of need for the Baltimore Ravens, and that is edge rush in this upcoming draft. So we're going to break down some of the 2020 prospects with our draft experts and let you know who the Ravens could possibly take, both, not just early on, but also middle of the draft and towards the end of the draft.
Yeah, so guys, let's do this. We'll start with players that you consider to be worth a first half, so first, second, and third round grade that the Ravens, would consider using their draft equity on in those positions. So we'll start with the upper echelon guys. So specifically in the first round, do you have any names? And we'll go to you first, Danny. Do you have any names in specific that are guys that you're pretty confident that are going in the first round, whether it's to us or someone else?
Yeah, so in the first round, obviously you have your Chase Young, who's going to be gone 2 to 3. AJ Epinesa, I think, is a guy that will go in the first. Real strong hands. He'd be a great fit for the Ravens if he falls that far. Clavon Chason, if you think of Attack McKinley, that raw athleticism, high motor guy, he should go. He probably will be gone by the time the Ravens pick. And then Yetur Gross Matos is another strong, big hand guy who can just push his way in and has that raw athleticism. And I think he'll be going the first, and he could fly to the Ravens. It's a possibility.
All right, Craig, do you agree? Do you agree with? You got more, Danny, in the first round?
There's a few more that could, but not that are definitely going to be there.
Okay. All right, Craig, do you agree with those grades? Are those guys first rounders to you?
In my eyes, we all know Chase Young. Chase Young is a beast. He's fantastic at everything he does. He's definitely going to go in the top 5, most likely. If not, I can't see him getting out of the top 10. Clavon, just tremendous burst in speed. Used a lot of speed moves to disengage. But despite that, he showed decent coverage skills too. He was able to come back and pick up guys, and he shows a lot of hustle and pursuit skills. I definitely think he's a top 20 guy. But after that, I think it really becomes cluttered, and I don't know who's going to go in and who's not. It's really there's so many receivers and running backs and outside linebackers in that area. I don't really know who's going to go in the first, but Gross Matos has that prototypical size, really great length. Overall, he's pretty athletic. He's 0.7 on the adjusted spark, almost 35-inch arms, so massive arms. So even if a tackle's with him, he has the arm length to be able to tackle someone while he's fighting off a blocker. Zach Bond, he's someone that I think a team's going to like him, and I could definitely see him going in the first round. But I don't see him as a fit for the Ravens. The reason is, if I go back to our linebackers, the ones that I think are successful, I think of Zadarius, I think of Judon, I think of Suggs, I even think of Jarrett Johnson. All of those guys were taller than 6'3", and all of those guys were 260 or 265 or 270. And obviously when you get in the NFL, you're going to pack on some weight, but Bond's 240. He's a lot smaller than a lot of the other outside linebackers. And I don't think he can bulk up that much and keep his speed. I think if he ended up going to the Ravens, he'd be someone like a Kamalei Correa. I really think he shows a lot of speed and athleticism, and he could do a lot, but I think eventually he'd get bumped into the inside just because he's not big enough to fight off those tackles. I will say Bond is a lot more polished than Correa was. His spin moves, his swims, his rips, he shows a lot of technical stuff that Correa never had. But I have a hard time getting over someone that's 240 getting pushed to the outside in our type of scheme. With that, I also think I think Terrell Lewis, prototypical size. He had the longest wing span of any outside linebacker. A lot of injuries, but he's been talked about going more in the first round. So he's someone that he could sneak into the top just because 6'5", 260 plus, 34-inch arms, 83.5-inch wingspan. He shows everything you need, and his spark score is like a .79. So he's more athletic than 80% of the outside linebackers that have been drafted or edge rushers. But besides that, I don't see anyone else going in the first round.
Also, we need to expand on Terrell Lewis because that's not all you say, right? Because he also missed his first 2 years of college with season-ending injuries.
He did, yeah.
He's a clean product. He's going in the first every time, but he's got season-ending injuries, and he's got 2 different ones that have happened.
And you're absolutely right. He is the definition of a potential pick. He shows all the athleticism, everything you go on outside linebacker. He's like Terrell Suggs on steroids, not technically, but physically. But the thing is, can he stay healthy and can he kind of polish himself up because he's missed so much time from injuries?
Yeah, I think that availability is certainly a big factor in who the Ravens ultimately end up drafting, especially with a high-round pick. It'd be kind of surprising to see them risk a top-round pick on a guy that's already had 2 season-ending injuries. But let me ask you guys more about the middle of the round. You guys mentioned there's not a ton at the top. So if we can assume that some of those top guys you mentioned are already off the board at 28, then we have to look to the middle of the draft. Is there some guys in the 3rd or 4th round that could maybe come in and do one of those things very well, like either just hard against the run, nobody can get around them, or can flash that pass rush that the Ravens certainly need? I guess, Danny, we'll start off with you.
Yeah, so if you look at Bradley Anaya, he's a guy I really like. I'm surprised Jimmy doesn't shout him out every video because he's 257. He's got a speed rush. He's a beautiful pass rusher. He's a little weak against the run, but he is such high potential rushing the passer. And then Alton Robinson from Syracuse is a big athletic guy who can do a little bit of both. And I think he has an extremely high ceiling. It's just him needing to reach that. And that's the 2 guys I think, if they want somebody in the second day, they really should target.
So, Danny, do you think Bradley Anae is a day 2 or a day 3? Because I think Glenn said 4th round and beyond.
I think he's day 2.
You think he's day 2? I think, and I'll tell you this, Anae, his adjusted spark is 0.33, so he's not as athletic as 2/3 of the edge rushers. But when you put his Senior Bowl tape on, he did a lot. And there was one play particularly where he's going after Jalen Hurts, who we all know is a very fast, athletic quarterback, lines him up and causes Hurts to just throw it up in the air, and ends up Malik Harrison gets a pick. And then a little later in the game, he got another sack. So he showed up to the Senior Bowl. So on tape, I just see him as a scrappy kind of edge guy. I don't see too much speed overall. I don't see that athleticism, but 6'3", 257, he's a big guy. And I'm just going to keep using the word scrappy because he just fights through everything. A guy that I missed that I think could be a day 2 guy, later day 2, is Josh Uche. He's someone that kind of reminds me of Bond. He's 6'1", 245, but he's got really long arms to make up for it, 33.5-inch arms. He shows great bend, balance, and burst. Whenever I see Uche, that's the 3 I think about. His bend around the tackle, his balance while fighting through blocks, and then his burst because he's so quick off the line. He shows a good rip and dip move, speed to power. And even sometimes that the linemen were way bigger than him, he would catch so much speed that he could run an alignment and shove him back, and it's good speed to power move. He did miss some reads and he did miss some tackles, but he just showed so much penetration. If he gained weight, because like I said, he's 245, if he gained like 10 pounds, I really think he could be something really nice on day 2. Another guy that I like towards the beginning of the 4th round is John Greenyard, and I'm going to mess up his name, but Kenny Willekes. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. I know I butchered. Both of them are about 30% for edge rushers, but they're both about 6'3". They're both about 265. John Greenyard, what I saw from him, he was a leader. He was a transfer. And when he came in, his very first game, he was getting sacks. He was yawning at his teammates, and they all took it because they respected him so much. He's a guy that I just love, and I feel like he should be a round 4, but I think someone's going to fall in love with him. I think he's going to be a day 2 guy as well. Really smart player, and he just knows how to avoid getting chopped down. Has great arm length, and he just did everything all right.
So let me ask you guys a question real quick.
Yeah.
So you talked about Anai, and it's funny you guys said that, of course. Those of you who watch the show, I went to University of Utah, loved myself some Utes, like Eric Weddle, like Steve Smith, like Paul Kruger. Just saying. Anyway, the bone that I have to pick with Anai is I feel like and let me know what your guys' analysis is. This is just me watching the games, not always in position. I feel like he is not the brightest football player. Worked well inside that system, but benefited from the fact that there were a ton of seniors on the defensive side of that ball to kind of make up for some of those mistakes. But the other thing too is you talked about his athleticism. That's one of the things that concerns me is he just seems stiff to me. Like his hips, and I don't know, he just seems like he's stiff to me. And when he's up against tackles that, like Ronnie Stanley, if I'm not mistaken, was a Nevada All-State basketball star. Like Ronnie Stanley is an athlete.
Dancing
right?
bear.
Yeah, exactly. So when he goes up against those guys, I worry that he's going to get smothered. Now, this is my question. With Anai, I think what the Ravens are going to end up looking for is the Max Crosbys, right? Like the guys that the Raiders got in a mid-round pick who ended up, I think, last year with 10 sacks or 9 sacks. He led their team in sacks as a rookie. Mm-hmm. So if we're not going to go early on a guy, we need somebody to still make an impact. Is there someone there that isn't a project? Like, is Anai that guy that you think can come in, even though we take him in the mid-round, and give you immediate production? Because I think that's what we need. To either of you.
All right, so like mid-round guys, like I said, and then I was talking about Kenny Wilecki's. I think he shows a lot of speed. He looked very quick, had great reaction. He does have small arms, but he's 6'3", 260. Same with Ane. They're both 6'3", about 260. So they have the power to play there, and I think they would really fit there. I think both of them could make plays. Do I think they're going to be 10-sack guys? No. I think what you want from this outside linebacker is you have Judon, who's going to be on the left side, who's going to be coming around, getting a lot of the sacks, bringing the pressure. But we know Wink has a hybrid system, so I think this guy's going to need to be able to do a lot of different things. But the main thing is you're going to need them to be stout at the run, and then you're going to need them to do a little bit of extra stuff. The Michigan State linebacker, Kenny, I think he's got the speed, the reaction time. I think he could be a very good, like, middle of the draft pick, and I think he's someone who could do very well. I know a lot of other experts like Julian Aquara and Curtis Weaver. They're both good guys. They both show great weight. They both have good arm length, and they both have things that they do well. But I had them a little bit lower. I have them more as a round 4 or 5. And I think they could make an impact just because there's so much pressure all around our defense. If you have Calais Campbell in front of someone, it's not going to be hard to beat a one-on-one as it is if you'd be double-teamed. So I think just having Calais Campbell really opens up the outside linebacker to go behind him.
Yeah.
Danny, do you have any comments on that?
Other than the fact that Craig's wrong about everything.
A guy that I really like, I think he can make an instant impact, and maybe not so much in the pass rush, is Marlon Davidson, because we saw that we had a lot of issues.
He's going to go high.
We had a lot. You think he's going to go – where do you think he's going to go?
I don't think he gets past, I don't think he gets to our second-round pick.
Really?
Yeah, dude, Marlon Davidson is someone that is so versatile. And the thing is, when you watch Auburn, everyone watches Derek Brown because he's so explosive and he's so massive. Marlon Davidson shows a lot of similarities. If you watch the Senior Bowl practices, he was blowing up linemen left and right. I really think he could sneak into the first, and I think if not, I don't think he gets to our second pick unless we move up. I think he's that stout, that smart, that explosive.
All right, Danny, why is he going to fall?
I just don't think he has the pass. He's 303 pounds on the edge. I don't think he's fast enough to get to the quarterback and pressure a quarterback. I think if you get him as a run-stopping specialist. Because he doesn't have pass rush. All he has is strength, and he's not going to overpower NFL tackles like he did in college. So I think based off that, he should be, I think, late second round, maybe third round pick. That's what I see him as.
And you see him as a good scheme fit. I agree. That reminds me of, just hearing about it reminds me of like a Courtney Upshaw type guy, a guy that's, bigger. And I saw on Twitter today that hit that he put on Ben. Does anybody else remember that? That they called for roughing the passer? Oh my gosh. I know, Glenn, I'm sure that you remember that as well.
Try that again. You kind of went out a little bit there, Jimbo.
No, the hit that he put on Ben that they called for roughing the passer when
right.
Courtney Upshaw just changed his last name.
Hey, quick question. Where did Courtney Upshaw go?
Alabama.
He was a second rounder, right?
Very early second rounder, just like I said. That's where Davidson's going to go.
Ooh,
yeah, but it's hard to when you provide not a lot of pass rush to get up that high, I guess. But man, you said 300 pounds.
303.
Yeah, I guess. What about the other Alabama guy? Did you guys have a chance to look at Anthony Jennings at all? Either one of you?
I watched him. I wasn't that impressed with him. I thought he was big. I thought he had a lot of potential, but I think he's very raw. I think he's a mid-round 3 to 5.
Anthony Jennings was for Alabama. Marlon Davidson was from Auburn, just to let you know.
Yeah. I thought we were talking about the linebacker Courtney Upshaw. That's who I was referencing.
I don't think Marlon Davidson. You're not going to ask him to play outside linebacker. You would tell him to play the DN spot. He's obviously way too big to play outside linebacker, 300 pounds. All the guys we've talked about have been between 340 and about 365. Davidson's going to play D-line. He could play edge. He could play DN edge, but he's not going to play outside linebacker. And that's kind of what I was lining up. So I think Davidson could be a great DN piece. I don't think he could play outside linebacker.
Well, let me ask you about one more outside linebacker. I don't think you guys have mentioned in any of our videos yet is Daryl Taylor out of Tennessee. Dan, I look at this guy, he's 6'4", almost 270, got long arms. He seems like he'd be as great against the run, which you guys mentioned is something you have to be if you're going to be a top pick, certainly for the Ravens. What do you guys think about Daryl Taylor?
I have Daryl Taylor rated as a 2nd to 3rd. I think I think he has a high potential. He shows flashes of being something really good. I think he's missing something right now. He's missing some pass rush moves. He seems a little stiff to me as a rusher, and he likes to rely on just trying to overpower the tackle. But I think there's something there, and if he develops and he gets some good coaching and someone teaches him how to rush the passer, he could be a quality rusher in the NFL.
I agree with Danny on his points about him. I watched tape of him, but I didn't watch enough. I think what Danny said is what I would say. I don't think there's much difference between our opinions on him.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he looks like he's a few pass rush moves away from being a pretty good player. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a guy I was looking at as maybe a 2nd or 3rd round option if they don't get what they want. I know you like Epinesa in the 1st round, isn't that right, Craig?
Epinesa is someone that I watched, and I really think he's probably some of the strongest hands in this draft. If you watch a lineman try to link up with him, there's no lineman that's kept his hands on him for more than a second, because Epinesa, when he swings, it's like a bear. I mean, he'll rip your hands off. He'll totally throw linemen around. That's just how strong he is. The more I thought, when I first watched him, I thought he could maybe drop back into outside linebacker here and there. I know Wink could use him because Wink is very good at making schemes up to fit whoever's in the system. But the more I look at him, I think he's just going to gain some weight, and they're going to end up put him at a DN spot, which we could use, but he would just be a rotational piece behind our line. So the more I think about it, the 1st round pick, I think I would go in another direction. But I do think Epinesa would be a great value at that pick still.
All right, so here's the question that I think our fans want to know, and I know I certainly want to know based on your guys' expertise here. So based on the context that we provided as far as the available prospects that we have for the edge rushers, where do you see the Ravens taking an edge rusher based on these guys? And if you had to put a name down on the draft card yourself, if you're Eric DaCosta, what round do you take in the guy, and what's his name? Craig, I'll start with you.
So ideally, I pray to whoever you believe in, and I hope that one of these 4 guys that could be super late 1st round picks somehow fall. Like, I pray that either between Gross Matos, Terrell Lewis, Josh Uche, and Zach Bond, that one of them fall for some reason to the top. I think.
But who's your number one of those 4?
Yeah, like scheme fit wise, because you mentioned Zach Bond doesn't necessarily fit our scheme.
I know, but I think if he was there, I would like him there because I think you could use him because he's so versatile. But in that 2nd spot, I think Gross Matos is definitely gone. I think Bond is gone. I think if Terrell Lewis is there at 55, you take that shot. He's such a great value there that if he stays healthy, and we've seen this, Jimmy Smith had a few injury problems. He also had other red flags, but he had a few injury problems. But and that continued into the NFL. unfortunately. But there are definitely a lot of guys that show that even if you have injuries in college, that it doesn't continue. So I would just hope and pray that Terrell Lewis drops there. And I don't know what it is, but I just would really think it's worth the risk there because he could be so good.
It's a 55 spot then. You think it would make most sense then to go in the second round for an edge rusher. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing Craig did because he's a guy that just pops off, but I can change it because Craig's read my mind and stole my answer because he's a thief. I think a great selection would be if either AJ Epinesa falls to the end of the first or Bradley Anaye with one of the 2 second-round picks. I think either of them would be a great fit. I think getting a good pass rusher in to help Judon, so it's not just Judon by himself and then maybe Jalen Ferguson or a free agent that we bring in. I think getting a young pass rusher that we can develop for if we let Judy go next year or whatever happens, I think it would be big for us to get something there.
You think Bradley Anaye's a second-round pick?
I think he's a second-round pick. Dude, I love that guy. I love that guy.
Jimmy's a Utah fan, and he doesn't think he's a second-round pick.
Fine. I love that guy.
I mean, that is a guy you love. Like, Bradley Anaye is definitely a guy you're like, man, I love this guy. I want him on my team. He's definitely that guy. I don't know if you guys watched him do the haka, the whole haka dance. He got me hyped. I started getting chills. I was ready to go through a wall for this guy. So, I mean, I understand it, but I think he's just not athletic enough, and he doesn't really show that thing that makes him worth a second-round pick.
He reads the O-line so well and, like, where they're going and where their body's going. He's like, he has counter moves. I think he's got a bunch of potential, man.
And I agree because during the Senior Bowl, like I said, he made 2 sacks, or he made a sack, and the other one he forced an interception. I mean, Senior Bowl's the best of the best, and he put a whooping on some of those guys, and he wasn't more athletic than them. He was just better than them. He's just a football player. Jimmy and Glenn, do you mind if there's 2 guys that I kind of want to share that might go undrafted, might be super late, I'm not sure, but they're guys
Diamonds in the rough. Yeah, absolutely.
There's 2 guys that I really like that I can't really put them in a spot. I could say day 3 or later. Alex Highsmith, and I know some people really like this guy. I don't know if I definitely couldn't take him in the first 2 days, but 6'3", 250, 0.68 spark, so he's a good athlete. He shows great explosiveness. He shows good instinct, and his motors are always on. His problem is for being 250, he kind of lacked that strength, and he was a small school. He dominated these smaller school guys. He also had a sack against Clemson, so he showed that he can do it against the more elite teams. But I didn't feel comfortable with him having enough tape to put him anywhere near the first 2 days. And then another guy I like from Kansas, his name's Azure Kumara. 6'3", 245. He had the longest arms in the combine by over an inch. Like the next highest person was like 34 or something. He had 35.25-inch arms. So his wingspan is massive. He's a completely average athlete. He's in 50%, but he showed really good explosiveness, really good linear speed. He's someone that I think he'd be an ace on special teams first off, and then I think he could work his way up, especially with us putting him some packages where you could just use his speed and his giant length to really disrupt the passer. I think he's someone that you could grow and kind of work with his potential.
Yeah, this is the first I'm hearing about this guy, to be honest with you, Craig. And just looking at his measurables, certainly looks like he has a frame that could fill out and add some more weight to it. But, man, yeah, incredible arm length, 35.25 arm. I mean, holy smoke.
So it's an inch bigger than the next biggest arm.
Insane.
Terrell Lewis had like 34.25, but this guy's 35.25. So he's just massively long.
Yeah, and Danny, did you have any diamonds in the rough, or were those a couple guys you were looking at as well?
The only one I had that we haven't said is Cam Gill out of Wagner, who's just an athletic lineman. It's hard to find tape on him. The tape you find is kind of garbage because he's small school, but his coverage isn't great. He's not a high-end draft pick, but he's someone that's rough that you can make something out of with the right coaching because he has the body, he has the athleticism to get to a quarterback.
What's his size?
6'3". I don't know if I have his weight written down in front of me.
6'3", though. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's good height.
Yeah, I mean, to me personally, I love the upside of Terrell Lewis. And, man, if it works out, it seems like it could be a home run, but because he's got the body, he's got the moves, got the explosiveness. But, man, those injuries are just scary, man.
And it really is a bad – I mean, every year it's a bad time. But, like, in this case in particular, it's really unfortunate that we can't get him in, get a look at him,
I will say this, though. I don't know if there's any team that has more ties to Alabama and has more connections to Alabama than the Ravens. So I'm sure that they've done their due diligence and they know everything there is to know about them. But, yeah.
That is true. The only thing I'll say, I've said it before on the show, is that college doctors are very generous in the wording of those injuries to not make those guys' careers suffer too much.
But when Ozzie picks up the phone, he doesn't call the doctor. He calls right to the top. He talks to old Nick Saban.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like, once again, I think that's going to make the validity, the range of his pick even more broad, right? So who knows? We might be able to steal him, or, later in the draft, who knows what'll happen. But
I would say, because if he had cleared medicals, he could definitely go in the first. And there's been news reportings that people are looking at him in the first, and some people have him linked to us in the first. But with his medicals not being cleared, that drops him, and that gives us the opportunity to take him late. And the Ravens have done that before, where they've taken people that have a little bit of questionable past and really solidified the person as a great player. And I think this could be another opportunity for that.
Well, I'm with it. I'm a gambler. No, I'm not a gambler. But in this arena, I'll take my gamble here. I'll play a little Russian roulette and see what happens with this guy. So I'm with it. I am really excited to see what edge rusher we get in the draft. I hope that you guys got some information out of this. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to give us a like, and turn on that notification bell so you can stay up to date. We are going to continue to dig into a couple other areas, of course, inside offensive linemen, and then, of course, running backs. So stay tuned, and we will talk to you guys soon. See ya.
See ya.